My name is Lana, and I was 5 when this happened. One summer, my mom and dad said we were going on a super fun trip to a house by a lake. The lake was called Lake Louise, and it's way up in the mountains in a place called Banff National Park in Canada. The water was so blue, it looked like the sky was hiding in it. We were gonna stay for 2 nights. Just me, Mom, Dad, and my little brother Toby. He was 3 during this time, and he snores like a baby bear. The house was pretty. It had a big porch and a path that led down to a long wooden dock. The dock went out over the water, and at the very end was a little bench. That first night, after dinner, I looked out the window, and that's when I saw him. A man, sitting at the end of the dock. He didn't move. He just sat there, not fishing, not looking around, just sitting. I asked Mom, "Who's that man?" She peeked out. "Oh, probably someone walking by. Don't worry." But he didn't leave. We went to bed, and I woke up around midnight because I needed a sip of water. I looked out again, and he was still there, just sitting, still, like a statue. The next morning, the man was gone. But when Dad opened the back door to go outside, he said something that made my belly feel weird. "Hey, these footprints are muddy, and they go right to the door." I ran to look. Big muddy footprints, from the dock, all the way to our back door. "But the door's locked, right?" I asked Mom. She checked. "Yes, don't be silly." But I didn't feel silly. I felt scared. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I peeked out again. And there he was, sitting on the dock, in the dark. I told Dad. He got up and looked. But when he looked out the window, the man was gone. "Nothing there, sweetheart," he said. "Just go to sleep." But I knew what I saw. I curled under my blanket and tried to keep my eyes closed. But in the middle of the night, I heard squish, squish, squish. Footsteps. Wet, muddy footsteps, right outside our window. I held my breath. I didn't even blink. Then I heard the door handle jiggle. Click, click, click. I wanted to scream, but my mouth wouldn't work. Then, knock, knock, right on the glass. I hid under the covers until morning. When the sun came up, Dad went out again. And guess what? More footprints, muddy, from the dock, right to the window. But no man, no footprints going back, just to the house. That was our last day, but I begged Mom and Dad to leave early. "We can't," they said. "Let's just stay inside tonight." But when the sun went down, I looked out again, and he was back, still sitting, still watching. I asked Dad to take a picture. He tried, but when he looked at the photo, the dock was empty. The man didn't show up in the picture. "He's not real," Dad said. But I saw him. I could feel him watching. That night, we all slept in the living room together. Dad locked every door, every window. I stayed under my blanket, eyes wide open. Then, squish, squish, squish. T-a-p, 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 right on the glass behind us. Mom screamed. Dad ran to the window, but no one was there, just wet marks on the glass, like someone had pressed their face against it. We left at sunrise. When we were driving away, I looked back, and he was still there, sitting on the dock, smiling, not waving, not blinking, just smiling. And we never went back to Lake Louise again. But sometimes, at night, when I close my eyes, I hear it again. Squish, squish, right outside my window. Hi, my name is Anne, and this happened a long time ago. One weekend, my family went to a big beach in Oregon called Canon Beach. It's a real place with a huge rock called Haystack Rock right in the ocean. It looks like a giant triangle sticking out of the water. We rented a little gray house right near the sand for the whole weekend. It had big windows and creaky wood floors, and at night, we could hear the waves crashing right outside. It was supposed to be a fun trip, but then we saw her. It started the first night. I woke up and needed my stuffed bear, Tumbles, who fell out of bed. I picked him up, looked out the window, and that's when I saw her. A girl, alone, on the shoreline. She was barefoot. Her dress was all wet, like she just came out of the ocean, and she walked so slowly, one step at a time, right along the edge of the water. I ran to wake up Mom. "There's a girl outside. She looks wet." Mom came to look, but when she peeked out the window, no one was there. "Maybe you were dreaming, sweetheart," she said. "Go back to bed." But I knew I wasn't dreaming. The next night, I stayed up. I looked at the clock, 3:13 a.m. I don't know why I remembered the time, but it stuck in my head like glue. And guess what? She came back. Same girl, same slow steps, same wet dress dragging in the sand. And this time, she looked at me. Her eyes were sad. Her hair was all stuck to her face, and she pointed right at our house. I gasped and hid under my blanket. The next morning, I told Dad. He said it was just my imagination, but I didn't imagine the sand footprints we found on the back steps. Tiny, barefoot ones, the kind a little girl would make. The third night, I stayed by the window. I watched the clock, and at 3:13 a.m., she came again. But this time, I decided to help her. I tiptoed past Mom and Dad sleeping on the couch, opened the back door, and stepped out into the night. The sand was cold. The wind whooshed in my ears. But I could see her now, so clear. She was walking past Haystack Rock, her feet leaving little marks in the sand. She didn't look at me, so I called, "Are you okay?" She stopped. She turned around. Her face was pale, her eyes were big, and her dress. It was so wet it made squishy sounds when she moved. Then she whispered, but I couldn't hear her, so I stepped closer. "Do you need help?" I said again. She looked right into my eyes and said, "I can't find my way back." Then she took a step toward me, and another, and another. Her feet didn't make any sound now. I took a step back, but she kept coming, closer and closer. Then, she grabbed my hand. Her hand was ice cold. I screamed, "Let go!" And when I blinked, she was gone. I was standing alone on the beach, holding nothing. But my hand was still soaking wet. I ran back to the house, slammed the door, and crawled under Mom's blanket. She didn't even wake up. The next morning, I told them everything. Dad said, "You just had a bad dream." But when we looked outside, there were 2 sets of footprints, mine and hers, leading from the water, all the way to our door. We left Canon Beach that day, but I still remember her face. I still hear her voice. I can't find my way back. And every night, when the clock hits 3:13 a.m., I look out my window, and sometimes, just sometimes, I see wet footprints in the driveway. My name is Nancy, and I'm going to tell you about something really scary that happened to me and my family at our cabin by Lake Tahoe. Every year we go to this big cabin by the lake for a couple of weeks in the summer. It's 2 stories tall with a dark attic, and my little brother and I used to love playing up there. We would take our blankets and pretend we were camping, even though it was inside. We'd bring our puppy, Max, and watch the trees and the lake from the little window up there. It was so much fun to look down and watch the people near the lake, but we always felt a little weird being so high up. As we got older, we didn't fit in the attic anymore, and that's when we stopped our games. I didn't really like it, but I guess everyone has to grow up eventually. When our grandparents passed away, my parents decided to keep all their old furniture. They put it in the attic, and I guess it felt nice knowing that some of Nana and Pop's things were still with us. It was like they were watching over us. We didn't get to go to the cabin much anymore because of school and work. My parents didn't want to rent it out to strangers because they were scared the furniture might get broken. But one day, a man came to my dad, asking to rent the cabin. He was an old man, a veteran with white hair and a beard. He looked kind of strange, and had a deep, gruff voice that made my skin crawl. My dad thought he was a good guy because he was a soldier, and he told us we should trust him. At first, everything seemed fine. But then the weird stuff started. The landscapers told my mom that they saw the man sitting outside, staring at the kids by the lake. They said he was watching them for a long time, and it made everyone feel really uncomfortable. My mom didn't like that at all. She kept telling my dad that it wasn't safe, but my dad didn't want to cause trouble. He kept saying the man was harmless. Then, one day, we went back to the cabin for a visit after a long time. My little brother, Ben, was so excited to meet our new dog, Bear. But when we walked inside the house, everything felt wrong. Bear, our dog, was acting really strange. He was pacing and whining, like he was waiting for something. I thought maybe he was tired, so I didn't think much of it. We went out for dinner, and when we came back, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Something was wrong. Bear was lying at the foot of the stairs, and there was blood on the floor. My heart started to race, and my mom quickly grabbed her phone, while my dad grabbed a big knife from the kitchen. I didn't know what was happening, but I was terrified. We all tiptoed through the house, trying to find out who had hurt Bear. When we reached the top floor, I saw something that made me freeze in fear. The attic hatch was slightly open. There was a faint light shining through. It looked like someone was up there with a flashlight. My heart was pounding in my chest. I was so scared. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't make a sound. Without hesitation, my dad climbed up the ladder to the attic. I stayed behind, too scared to follow. I could hear the sounds of his footsteps, but then, nothing. It was dead silent. A few moments later, my dad came back down, looking calm, but I could tell something was wrong. He whispered to me that it was the old man who used to live there, and that he was up in the attic. My dad didn't know what to do, but my mom came running up the stairs, and when she heard, she started screaming. My dad didn't want to call the police, but my mom didn't care. She was already dialing 911. The police came and went straight to the attic. When they came down, they were holding the old man. He looked weak and sick, and he didn't even try to run away. He had a house key in his pocket, our house key. That made my mom so angry. She had told my dad to change the locks, but he hadn't done it. Bear was hurt, but he was going to be okay. I was really upset, but my dad didn't want to press charges. He said the man was old and sad, and maybe he didn't mean to hurt Bear. My mom didn't agree, but my dad wouldn't listen. We haven't been back to the cabin since that night. It feels different now, like something's wrong with the house. I'm too scared to go back. The lake, the trees, the attic. It all seems so much darker now. Every time I close my eyes, I can still see that strange old man watching us. And I don't think I'll ever forget how his flashlight glowed in the attic. I don't want to go back anytime soon. Ever. My name is Ron. This happened one winter, not too long ago. I had just finished a big change in my life. I was all alone now, and I needed to get away from everything, away from the sadness. My friend, Sarah, suggested we take a trip to a place far, far away. Somewhere quiet and peaceful, a place where we could forget everything for a little while. We found a small house to rent by a frozen lake in the woods, in a place called the Aderondex. It was perfect. The house was modern but cozy, with big windows that looked out over the ice-covered lake. The woods around the house were thick with trees, and there were hardly any other houses around. It felt like we were the only people in the world. We got there early in the morning, and when we arrived, we saw something strange. On the front steps was a little package. There was no name, no address, just a small note that said, "Stay safe. Stay warm." It seemed nice at first, but there was something strange about it. Inside the package was a tiny box of matches. We laughed, thinking it was a funny welcome gift. "I guess people in the woods are a little different," Sarah joked, but deep down, something felt off. The next 2 days were perfect. We hiked in the deep snow, drank hot chocolate by the fire, and everything was quiet and peaceful, just what we needed. The snow fell, soft and quiet, covering everything in a thick blanket of white. The house was warm, but at night, the snowstorm outside made everything feel still, like the whole world was asleep. The master bedroom was on the second floor, and from the bed, we could see the lake through big windows. I loved falling asleep to the sound of snowflakes tapping on the glass. It was peaceful. But on the third night, something woke me up. I heard a sound. At first it was soft, almost like wind, but it wasn't the wind. It was something wrong. I could barely hear it over the storm, but it sounded like something moving. Something mechanical, like a snowmobile. I couldn't believe it. Who would be out there at this hour, in the middle of the storm? I quietly got out of bed so I wouldn't wake Sarah. I looked out the window and saw it. A snowmobile moving slowly across the ice, like it was unsure of where to go. It was dark, and the snow was falling heavily, but I could still make out a shape. The snowmobile stopped. Then I saw the person on the snowmobile get off and start waving their arms. They looked like they were yelling, but the wind carried their words away. They were facing our house. They needed help, right? Maybe someone was lost. I woke Sarah up and told her what I saw. My heart was racing, but I had to help. I put on my boots and rushed outside into the cold. The air hit me like a wall, freezing my face and hands. The person on the ice was a woman, bundled up in a thick coat. She was crying. "Please help! My boy is lost in the snow!" She screamed, her voice breaking. I didn't think twice. I had to help. I couldn't let a child be out there in the storm. I told Sarah to stay inside and stay safe. I walked toward her, each step crunching in the snow. The ice was solid, so I felt safe walking on it. The woman looked frantic. "My boy ran off," she cried. "Please, he's out here somewhere in the snow. You have to help me." But something didn't feel right. Why hadn't she seen her child fall off the snowmobile? It didn't make sense. She looked so calm, but there was something about her that made my stomach twist. As I got closer, she said something that made my blood run cold. "Do you still have those matches?" she asked, and she smiled. My heart stopped. The package, the note, the matches. Before I could say anything, she pulled out a gun. "Give me your wallet and phone," she ordered. My hands froze. I had no choice. I handed them over, and she didn't even flinch. She climbed back onto the snowmobile and sped off into the storm, disappearing into the white. I stood there, my heart pounding. I turned and ran back to the house, yelling for Sarah to call the police. The cold air burned my lungs, but I didn't care. I had to get back inside. I slammed the door shut behind me and locked it. I kept staring out the window, half expecting to see the snowmobile coming back. The police arrived an hour later, but by then, the snow had covered everything. There were no tracks, no clues. The woman was gone. I was angry. How could she have known we were there? How could she have found us in the middle of nowhere? And why? Just for a wallet and a phone? It didn't make sense. The police looked around but didn't find anything. They said she probably came from an old boat ramp on the other side of the lake. I didn't believe them. How had she gotten her snowmobile out there? And why had she left those matches? Something felt very wrong. The Airbnb host refunded our trip, but he seemed just as confused as we were. He didn't know anything about the matches or the note, but I still couldn't shake the feeling. Could the host have known something? Could he have been part of it? I'll never know for sure, but every time I think about it, I feel like that woman is still out there, somewhere, watching, waiting. I still don't understand why someone would do all of that just for a wallet, but sometimes I wonder if they were just crazy enough to get some sort of twisted joy from it all. Hi, my name is Dean, and I was 10 years old when this happened. One summer when I visited my friend Tommy. He lives in a big house next to a dark, quiet lake called Lake Crescent, deep in the woods of Washington State. There are barely any people around there, no neighbors, just trees and water, and sometimes strange noises. Tommy's family is super rich. They have houses all over the world. But this one, this house by the lake, it felt different. It felt creepy. One day, Tommy invited me to sleep over. His parents weren't home, and we had the whole house to ourselves. We played games and ate snacks. Then we went down to the dock to look at the stars. The water was so still. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then, I saw it. A light. Flashing. From across the lake. It blinked 3 times. Blink. 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 Then it blinked 3 long flashes. Blink. 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 Then 3 more short ones. Blink. 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 I asked Tommy, "What is that?" His eyes got big. "That's SOS," he whispered. "It means help me." My tummy started to feel funny. "Maybe someone's in trouble," I said. Tommy nodded. But we couldn't call the police. There was no phone service on the lake, and the Wi-Fi was off. So, we did something dumb. We took his dad's old kayak and pushed it into the water. The lake was dark. The moon was hiding. The only lights were from faraway empty houses. Our boat creaked as we paddled, and the water, it was cold and deep. We paddled toward the blinking light, but then it stopped. Gone. Just like that. The house we were heading to looked old and broken. Its dock had sunk into the water, like something had pulled it down. The grass was wild. The windows were dark, but that's where the light had come from. We dragged the kayak to the muddy shore and crept toward the house. "Let's go back," Tommy whispered. "We're already here," I said. "Let's just look." We found a window that was unlocked. We crawled inside. It was cold. The house was empty. Not like someone moved out, like no one had ever lived there. No furniture, no pictures, no dishes, just bare walls. We tiptoed through the rooms until we found the stairs. We knew the light came from the second floor. Every step we took made the wood creak. We found a door at the end of the hallway. I pressed my ear against it. Nothing. I looked at Tommy. He nodded. I pushed the door open. The room was empty, but by the window there was an old machine, a projector, pointing outside. "It was a trap," I whispered. Tommy turned and ran, and then I heard it. Bang! A door swung open behind me. Thump, 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 footsteps, fast ones. I spun around and ran, heart pounding. I flew down the stairs after Tommy. I heard the footsteps following me, getting closer. We scrambled through the house and jumped out the window. I hit the ground and rolled. Tommy was already by the lake. "The kayak's gone," he yelled. Then we both saw him. A man, a big man, running from the side of the house. I couldn't see his face, but he was fast, and he was chasing us. Tommy didn't wait. He jumped into the lake, sneakers and all. I followed. The water was like ice. My skin felt like it was burning, but I kicked and swam and didn't stop. We swam and swam and swam toward the tiny light from Tommy's house on the other side. Finally, we dragged ourselves onto the dock. We were shaking, freezing, but we were safe, for now. We ran inside, locked all the doors, and called the police. It took them a whole hour to get there. When they did, they went across the lake to check the house. When they came back, they looked confused. "No one's there," they said. "That house has been empty for years. No footprints, no lights, no projectors, nothing. But we know what we saw. There was someone in that house. They wanted us to come. They made that SOS, and they were waiting. I still don't know who it was, or what they were going to do. But I'm glad we ran, because if we stayed, I don't think we would have made it back."